Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
I guess you might have joined early today, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, no worries. Okay, Abdullah. So yeah, what we can do, uh, like how can like specifically what I do have the project done, lined up, but for you only. But I guess you were telling me last time about something that you have to do specifically. So what was that?
So yes, I want to do some JavaScript projects like the console.log, all that
Yeah.
stuff,
Okay.
and
Okay. 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 No.
JavaScript.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then and then this week, I'm introducing to Node.js, but I think let's do first JavaScript in web
Yeah.
programming, then go to Node.js at a specific day.
Mhm.
For
Okay.
web programming. We're doing web programming today, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Okay.
I'll help you out with everything. I'll make it sure that we will make through HTML, CSS, and JavaScript project on that basically. So it
Yes.
will be fun, I guess, today. I can definitely make some better projects with you, but let's start with an easy one here, okay? With HTML, CSS. So we are basically making a to-do list application for you at the first go because that is the easiest one, I guess, you can make, and in that you can cover up a lot of topics also. And as you talked about JavaScript, so definitely we can write down some JavaScript programming such as a lot of things which you will see right away as far as I will write it down. And the project is also not difficult to understand and everything. So that's best. By the way, after that, if you want to add animations and transition, you can use frameworks such as React or Vue.js for advanced functionalities. But I don't think so. I'm going into that right now. I'll just quickly, you know, explain you the basic stuff, and maybe yeah, that works better for you, right? For at this point of time. Okay. Replit, let me see if I'll be able to work for the Replit right now. Okay, life's. How was your day? How's everything going on?
Yeah, it's going great. Uh,
Missing.
November has arrived.
Yeah.
So
How do you
also
celebrate?
there.
How do you celebrate
Sorry.
your New Year's?
Um, Hopefully I may celebrate it over here in Canada.
Hmm.
Yeah, with some excitement. Let's see about that.
Do you do anything specific in the on the New Year's or no?
Um, like if there will be fireworks, maybe I'll see some fireworks or yeah, or some like maybe if like family plans probably.
Okay, no worries. Amazing. That is okay, fine. So let's start with the thing. What was I telling you was about this VS Code. Let me share my VS Code to you and let's start the project. VS Code. Here it is. So we will create three files on your name. First is your project. So your project.html. I'll just write down your.html. Here we'll start with coding the HTML file. As I told you, we'll make three files and it is a to-do list kind of a thing. So it is super easy and straightforward. Hopefully you will learn a lot of things in here today. And yeah, I will just try to make sure you do so. Okay. So first is, if you remember, you put up the boilerplate, and as you mentioned that you want to learn about HTML, sorry, JavaScript today, which I will be showing you how you can do. So by the way, after putting up this, you can just put up the title that this is to do application. So you can write down this to do application here, and in the title after that you can just put up a style tag, or in the body you can just write down about div with a class as container, and then you can just inside that you can just write down h1, which is basically to do list. That is what you are making. To do list, that is what you are making. And after that we will set up a link. uh Before that, before I give anything like that, I'll just put up another input tag basically. Before that, let's say we give another div here with a class as input container. So input container here, and inside it, we can just write down input here and type as text, and ID also we will give it here. So ID as to do input, to do input, and then you have the placeholder, which can you can write down here, add a new task. So write down here, add a new task here. Then you go next line, you start with button here, and then you will just put up an ID here, which is basically add dash btn. And then it's like here you just write on add, and then you have this div, and after this div you can put up the ul tag. Hopefully till now there is nothing difficult I have used, so you might be able to understand everything. To do list, and then after that, that's it. This is what your html look like. After that, I'll give a script tag for for my JavaScript. Inside that also you can write down, or you can create a separate folder for JavaScript to write it down. Similarly, you can do it for CSS, but I'm just doing it in one. Like it is not compulsory, but are you getting me what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm getting you.
Yeah, so you can make separate files if you want to by giving it a link and paste it and just do that. But I am just writing it down in because it is not required right now. Well, because we are just not connecting that much, I think it's fine to do easy work right now. And whenever you just be able to really want to do it on a serious level, then I will teach you more stuff. But for now, let's say we have the background color. So we have this background color as hashtag F0, let's say whitish kind of thing. Then you have the margin and padding. So let's say we have the margin here as 0. We have the padding here as 0. We have the display here as flex. We have the justify content here as center. We have align items as center. We have height as 100 vh, 100 vh, and then we can go to dot container here, dot container, and then inside that we can choose the background. So we have the background here as white. We have the padding here as 20 pixels. We have border radius here as nearly around 5 pixels. We also have a box shadow, which is basically nearly around, we can give it like 0 0 around 10 pixels. This is how you give the value. So RGBA value means like color shade. So 0 tab 0 tab 0 tab 0.1, which is for alpha. So 0.1, that give you a different color shade can be given, but this is how we give it as a professional coder. You give it like that, 300 pixels, and then you have text align center. Then you go further and you can just write down h1. There you choose margin here. Basically you choose margin bottom actually. So margin bottom here you choose, and you just give it around margin bottom around 20 pixels. Margin bottom is 20 pixels. Then you go you write down dot input in h1 obviously. So that you go next line, you write down dot input here, dot input dash container here actually. You can choose the display here as flex. You can choose justify content here as a space between, and then you can just write on about input here. In input you can just write on about width 70% around. Then you can just choose the padding around 10 pixels. Then you can choose the border around 1 pixel solid. Hashtag, and then you give it a border radius here. So you try to put up here border radius, which is again 5 pixels. Then you give it a button. Now you might be thinking, what is this? Now we will go on JavaScript after this, just basic, putting up the basic up above here, and then we can just directly go on the JavaScript. Then you can just write on background color, which is, let's say, random color. I will pick up 745, maybe a greenish color. Then color white. Then border none. I don't want to give it a border here. Border radius, definitely you can give it 5 pixels. And then cursor pointer. Then you go to the next line, you just put up button hover, choose the background color here, hashtag 218838, and then you choose UL, list style. Again here, list style you can choose, or list style type also you can choose. So list style type here as none. Then you can choose the padding as 0, and then you can choose margin bottom or margin top as 20 pixels. Then you have some 3 more topics. I will just give it a CSS to, and I guess then it will look fine, like the code, not the code, but the page look better, because the better CSS, the better would be the page. Otherwise, the page would not look that great, obviously. So border none, and this thing you can master on only after a bit of practice. That is around 5 pixels to 10 pixels, and then you can give border radius, which is around 5 pixels again. Then cursor pointer. Last is, I'll give, just whenever you hover this, but like take your arrow on this button, then also it should basically change its color to something maybe else. Hashtag C8 maybe 2333. That is a fine color. That's it. JavaScript. Let's move on. JavaScript we will type in here. Again, you can give it a link, make a separate file. Firstly, whenever you're making JavaScript, you always write down document.element by ID or document.add event listeners. Now, specifically, we are adding event listeners and some functions to JavaScript. So, firstly, we will start with putting up document here dot add event listener, as they have given you the option. In that, you will write down DOM, which is basically the best thing ever happened to JavaScript, which is DOM. And in DOM, you will write down content is loaded here, then content loaded, comma, then you have this functional bracket over here, which is basically equals to uh curly parenthesis, next line. Now in next line you will start with constant, so we'll start with constant add btn, which is basically equals to, always in JavaScript you use add equals to document dot get element by id, get element by id here, where here is inside it you can just write down here add dash btn, semicolon, next line, start with constant to do input, which is basically equals to, again you have document dot get element by id, and here you just write down to do dash input, semicolons. Next you start with again the constant to do list, which is basically equals to, here just make sure to put up t, and document dot get element by id, and then here also you just mention to do dash list, semicolons. Then after that, you will add a new task. Okay. Let's say you add a new task here. So slash slash to add a comment. Add new task here. So for that, how do you add a new task here? Add a new task. You just write on add btn.
I have a question before you continue.
Mm-hmm.
So for the JS file, JavaScript file, you didn't create another file. So is this shortcut
Yes,
with
this is
it?
a shortcut. Yes, this is a shortcut. You
All
can
right.
create a file also. It's not compulsory, but to create a file. But this is a kind of a thing that you can do for sure. Yes,
Using the script, using the script.
yes, using a script tag, you can write down a script here also after your
Div.
JavaScript ends, like as soon as
Yeah.
you're done with your JavaScript inside the body, or you can just add it before the CSS also, like after this, or you can add it like here also. But I usually prefer downwards because when you
Yes.
the functionality and it get loaded up, so that it will not stop at least the CSS part to load first. Because when you add JavaScript, sometimes when you're making complicated projects, then it is sometimes take a bit of more time to load. So that's why I always prefer JavaScript after the HTML part. So it load it faster.
All right. I'll try this in my classes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure you can try it. And then you can also add this task here on your press when pressing enter. In that we can just write down about to do input dot add event listener here. In here you can just write down about key press, comma, bracket key, equals to, and then you can give curly parenthesis. Go to the next line and write down if some of the things you will put up over here. E dot key is basically equals to enter in case that happens. And you will tell it's like communicating with the code actually. It's always like that whenever you are doing it like this, semicolons. And now you definitely have to add up some functions as well in here. So to add up some function, you just put up semicolons here. And after the semicolon, you start with putting up some function here. So for function to be there, you write down function, name of the function. Let's say I'll name it as add task function, curly parenthesis, next line. Start with the constant as text, sorry, task dot, just like text here, and which is basically equals to do input dot value dot trim function. And then you can give it a semicolon here. Next is if task text is equals to this, then you have constant li equals to document dot create element, and you can just put up li here. So if you have even done a bit of this before, you will definitely make sense. Otherwise, I'll explain you. Li dot inner html you will write down here equals to, and write down some add, or just write down task text. Then you can just put up here button class equals to delete button, delete here slash button semicolon. to do list dot append child and li here, to do input here dot value, which is equals to this and semicolons. You can also slash slash add and delete the functionality, which can be done by just writing down li dot query selector like this, and you can just put up a delete button in the function. That can be done dot by dot delete dash btn dot add event listener bracket click function equals to this as li dot remove function semicolons. That's it. This is how you do. Now we just have to go over and check how does the project look like. Yeah, it's okay. Wait, let me just share my screen to you.
Oh, wow.
What we have to do, let's say we have breakfast in the morning. We have classes, maths class in the college. Then we have our computer programming class. Then we have a session of sports session for making sure we are active. Lunch, uh, another class, evening time, you usually we play.
Transport.
Yeah, okay. Transport.
Yeah.
We can also play football or basketball. Uh, then we come from there, eat, gym, dinner, sleep. And you can definitely delete whatever you want to delete there. Whatever is more important, you can just put that up. And this is your to-do list. Amazingly well working code. And we have definitely make a good one this time. But there are a lot of, like a bit of things that I would love to explain. Let's go back on the code.
Wow, I love the interior design of the program.
Yeah, I haven't made it much difficult for you right now. I was just trying to make sure that just the relevant things should be there, such as in this, as you may have mentioned to you. If yeah, that's better, and then the some part of in here. So let me explain you. How does this really work? The JavaScript code and what specifically things are going on in here. So you see, I'll tell you line by line. Firstly, we said you can see the JavaScript code by yourself. Document.add event listener .dom content loaded. This is the what is this basically? This ensure that your JavaScript code runs only after the HTML has been fully loaded. Like this prevents errors caused by trying to access the element before they exist in the DOM. Uh, what is DOM? Do you know what is DOM?
Yes, document object model.
Amazing, sir. Well said. So get references. Then we have started with constant at btn, where we are just writing document.get element of id at btn, which gets the button with the id add button. So you have to see like what when I command something, how I've commanded, what language as I use English to explain you things. Similarly, you use JavaScript to explain to the compiler that you have to do this. So for when you have to put a button, you write on constant add button. Document.get elementary by ID, add BTN, then constant to do input, document.get elementary to do input, constant dot to do list, document this. So you basically get the input field where the user types the task. That is done by the second line, which said constant to do input equals to document.get element by ID to do input. Then you have document.get element by ID again to do list, which gets the unordered list like UL where the task will be added. Then you have you are adding event listeners where you have like you are adding the btn dot add event listener click task. So that basically this attaches a like click event to the add button. When the button is clicked and the add task function is called to add a new task. Then we have to do input dot add event listener, which where we have put it up a key press e and all of that. If statement e equals to, what is that actually? So the first line is like it listens for a key press event in the input field, like what exactly you're putting. When you enter it, it triggers the add task function to put up that thing in the line, like to add the task in the line. So this allow user to add task by pressing enter instead of just clicking the button or something. So you that's why I write it down enter, so that I can click the button enter and the task should be added into this as soon as I write it down. Then now what you should be thinking as a new student that okay fine, I have I get it, but I don't understand the logic, what is happening and stuff. That you are saying, if you will say that if I will ask you, or I'll just make a sentence for you, hey, where are you going? You will say, well, I'm going to the college. How did you know that you are going to the college, or how did you understood me? Because you know what is the meaning of that word and how to use it in a sentence. I have given you the meaning, I have given you the sentence. You have to learn the sentence, remember it, and memorize it. That's what exactly it is. Nothing logical, nothing practical, straightforward. It's a sentence, it's a vocabulary word you need to remember. If I will say uh where, like, the correct sentence is where are you going, instead of that I'll say are you going where. You will say what exact you mean, where am I going? So you will make the sentence correctly then. So yeah, so there is a type of, like, you need to know how to correctly type the sentence, what is the correct type of sentence, how to type it down, what is the vocabulary word, how and what is the sentence exactly, that you need to memorize. Nothing will help, like no one can help you in that. You have to learn the some of the things which can only help you out with the things. As soon as you learn 20 to 30 projects, it becomes super simple for you to make the projects. And just it's all about the first 10 to 20, 10 to 15 projects, and then automatically things come over, I would say. Well, yeah, that's how the project work. By the way, then you had the functionality. You start to write down constant text task test equals to do input dot value dot trim function, which basically get the value text entered into the input field. Trim function remove the extra spaces from the beginning to the end of the text. Then if task text, so every line has some kind of a role to it, right? Whatever I'm writing down in the function, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a line. After the function first, like, function, uh, when you write down function add task function, constant task text equals to do input dot value trim function, that also has a role to do it. Now the first line role is to gets the value text entered into the input field. Then trim function removes any extra spaces from the beginning to the end of the text. That if task text is exclamation mark equals to something, which basically check if the input is not empty. If the input is empty, then it won't add a blank task. And then you have constant li document dot create li, which create a new list, like after you are added up the task. So how will you, so for that reason you add that line. That line is to adding a new task again after you are done from the previous one. Goes on and on, every line has to do things over. You are also putting up the delete functionality. Why that's so? Because if you press the delete button, you can delete that task also. So for that reason I have put it up the end code, which is for the like delete functionality here, this part, so that I can click the delete button and can even remove the task as well. So this is how you do it. Super simple code, straightforward code, nothing much. Just the need of writing it down sometimes and then memorizing it, which is very 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 important to make sure you become a good coder in the future. That is how you do it, Mr. Abdullah. So hopefully you have understood it. And
Can you explain more in the E dot E code?
say it.
Where it says E dot key, the letter E
Mm-hmm.
on the arrow function. Can you explain that more?
Yeah, so basically when you click enter, it basically give you a new task. Like, you get into the new task basically when you press enter. That whole thing is what I'll also put it in the chat, but the first line before that, I want you to please rejoin the meeting. Okay,
Sure.
the
Okay.
same meeting ID.